My name is Richard Kirkwood. This is a video presentation for assignment 4 of 7 of TAE. I'm here with Irene Kirkwood, who is assisting me with this video presentation. Irene, do I have your permission to record you?
Of course you do, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll get started. Thank you, Irene, again for coming to another one of our training sessions. As you know, this is part of your formal training package for your Contribute to Work Health and Safety qualification. Today's training, not presentation, but today's training is focusing on a specific element of your training, and it's in relation to hazards. And what we're going to be covering is what is a hazard. We're going to be getting you to think about your workplace, and based on learning what a hazard is, thinking about what hazards that you can identify yourself in the workplace. And then what we're going to do is a little interactive activity that is based on a retail environment, which is what you work in, to enable you to see if you've developed a sound understanding of what a hazard is, and that you can actually apply it in an interactive style environment. So a couple of things that we want to cover. I just want to discuss your ergonomics. This is the first time we've done a classroom session where we're going to be working in front of a computer. So I want to just discuss your ergonomics in relation to the way you set yourself up in a chair. So when you're sitting in the chair, you want to be in a position where your arms are basically parallel to the desk, so that you're in a comfortable position if you're writing and typing. So how are you feeling in relation to that?
That's fine.
So you're getting some, you got some nice support on the back of the chair?
Yep.
Okay, not a problem. So just a couple of other work health and safety things. In the event that we have to do an evacuation, the exit is behind me through the double glass doors and out through the main door of the building, so we don't have to travel far. If you need to use the facilities, it's just through the door there. If you need to get a drink or yourself, it's just through the doors here, through the archway and around the corner, so they're not too far away. So what we're going to do today, essentially in the first part, what we're going to do is discuss what a hazard is from an international standard perspective and what it is from a safety perspective, because hazards can be broad reaching, and what we'll be doing is drilling them down specifically into what we're talking about is a hazard in the context for your training. So one of the things that I'm going to get you to look at is I'm just going to bring up a PowerPoint presentation. So the question is, what is a hazard? Now, what do you think a hazard is, just from your thoughts?
Well, any spillage that you can slip and fall, and things might topple over on to something if they're not packed properly.
So what's your general understanding of what is a hazard? So you've given some specific examples, but what do you think in the broad context defines a hazard?
Where something could cause an accident.
Okay. So for that, what a hazard is, a hazard is a source or a situation with the potential for harm, either in terms of human injury or health, so it could be an injury to you or another person, but it also could be damage to property, or it could be damage to the environment, or a combination of these. So for example, driving a car, is that a hazard?
Yeah, you could have an accident.
Right? So in that context, if driving a car is a hazard, what is the potential hazard in relation to driving a car?
Oh, to hurt yourself?
Well, you could hurt yourself, you could hurt somebody else, you may not hurt somebody, but you might drive your car into a tree. So you've done that harm to your vehicle, but you've also done harm to the environment because you've done the tree.
Of a tree.
So as you can see, it's a very broad statement of what is a hazard. Okay? But what we want to look at specifically in the context of your training, and what we're looking at is safety. So the next question then is, from a safety perspective, what is a hazard? Okay? So that being said, now our national and state authorities for safety are Safe Work Australia and Safe Work New South Wales. So at the national level, the National Regulatory Authority defines a safety hazard is something, including someone's behaviour, that has the potential to cause death, injury or illness. And the state level is a situational thing that has the potential to harm a person. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Looking at the first definition, something including a person's behaviour that can cause, right? Focusing on the word person's behaviour, what do you think that broad statement encompasses? So you've described physical hazards, so things like slip, trips and falls, and so what sort of hazards do you think a person's behaviour can represent?
Whether being stupid or silly.
That could be one.
Like riding on the back of a supermarket trolley, or not looking at what they're doing.
What could be another example of that? Thinking personality-wise, something that one person's doing to another person.
Oh, being sarcastic, being a bitch, pushing them to do something they're not comfortable with.
Yep. Bullying behaviour.
Yes.
So, you know, that is an example of a safety hazard in the workplace. Someone displaying bullying behaviour to somebody else, that has the potential to cause death, injury or illness, because by bullying them, you're affecting their mental health. You could also be pressuring them through bullying behaviour to do things in the incorrect way, and as a result they get injured or injury. So it doesn't necessarily mean a physical thing. It could be the behaviour of somebody, that the on effect, the domino effect of that person engaging in that type of behaviour results in the injury or illness of a person.
Okay.
So that sort of, it makes sense in that particular context?
Yeah.
Okay, so that being said, thinking of your workplace, so you're working in a store environment.
Yes.
Can you think of, say, 5 things in your wicker store that you see on a day-to-day basis that you would consider a hazard?
As far as...
Based on the definitions that we've just discussed, where they can either be a physical hazard or they can be a behavioural hazard or an environmental hazard, what sort of things...
Impatient people.
Impatient people. And where do you think, what would be the hazard in relation to that? What's the potential impact of having to deal with impatient people?
They could turn around and hurt themselves, each other.
Okay, good example.
Bash each other up.
That's a good example. What about some physical examples?
Physical, physical meaning harming each other or themselves?
Harm to yourself, harm to the public, harm to people in the shop, harm to fellow employees. What sort of hazards do you think?
Health hazard?
Yeah, health hazards. What sort of health hazards would there be?
If having a fit or,
okay.
heart attack.
All right, let's maybe drill down. Maybe we're sort of sitting up too high in the clouds here. Let's look at, say, like a simple thing. A jar of jam has dropped off the shelf and smashed on the floor. Okay, is that a hazard?
Yes, it is.
Why is it a hazard?
Because they can trip, fall over, cause injuries themselves.
What sort of injury? So we've had a slip.
Well, it depends if it's glass involved as well.
Okay, so I've said it was a jar, so it's a glass jar. So the hazards that are there now.
Yeah. Well, to cut themselves.
Okay, so we've got a slip hazard, we've got a cutting hazard.
You've got a fall, the sprains or whatever.
Okay, let's say for example someone's knocked over a bottle of bleach in the laundry section.
That could be also chemical reactions on the skin, but for breathing as well.
Excellent, excellent. Let's say you're a shelf stacker, someone who it's the end of the shift and they're restocking the shelves. What are some of the hazards that they might experience in that context?
Dropping things.
Good.
When they're pushing things to the front, they could all fall off the shelf rather than, you've got to watch the expiry dates on things, so you've got to stack from the back. Yeah, mostly dropping things.
Okay.
And damaging the products.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little exercise. This is an interactive thing. Now, the screen that you've got there is a touch screen.
Okay.
Okay, so it works the same as an iPad, so when you touch on it, it'll work in the same way as an iPad.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to bring up now, this is an interactive thing.
Yes.
So as you can see there's one there already highlighted. So what, can you read that one out for me?
Strain lifting overfilled shopping bags.
All right, so what is in here is there are 16 in total.
Yes.
Hazards that are in this simulated store environment. Now, just working your way through, if you can see one, just sort of point in the area and I'll move my mouse towards it and you tell me what you think it is.
Okay. Well, there's one.
Okay. So there, so what does that say?
Trip due to cord on floor.
Floor. Okay, let's keep going.
Overreaching.
Excellent. What does it say there?
Multiple items stored above shoulder height.
Excellent.
You've got one there. It's forklift collision.
Excellent.
And here, walking distracted and he could fall on.
Excellent.
Here, pallets collapsing.
Excellent.
Not looking.
You're doing very well here, Ari.
Then we go down to...
Now, so I will point out some of these won't be that obvious, so we'll keep going.
Okay, there's your overfill bag.
Yep, excellent.
Didn't come up.
That's because it's already up.
Oh, alright. This one's 4, due to a spill on the ground. This one, something's fallen over, falling object. This one, he shouldn't be doing that. Stepping across from a ladder.
Mm-hmm.
You've got, he's caught himself on sharp edges. I don't know what this one's screaming for. Aggressive customer.
Yeah, you mentioned that one, didn't you?
It should be running. Oh, it's not coming up. Oh.
Oops. Okay, what's that one there that I've just, see how that's just highlighted? So click on that one.
Oh, this one?
Yep.
Hand laceration. Oh, he's cut himself with the knife.
Yep.
Cutting boxes open. This one is a hold up.
Yep.
Oh, we've done that one. Oh, the ladder. Misuse of a ladder. Aggressive customer. Falling object.
So how many we got there? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we've still got 3 to go.
Okay, is it the kids running around?
No.
No. This one, don't know what this guy's doing. Tall teller overreaching. Oh, okay. That's the shopping bag one. It didn't come up.
What about that one there?
Oh, it's blocked an emergency exit.
So like I said, they're not always that obvious in relation to, I mean, you've been really good, you've really well picked up some of the, a couple of the less obvious ones.
But this guy, stretching to surplus stock.
Yep. So you've now got all 16. Well done.
Okay,
So how did you find that exercise?
that was good.
So it sort of, it gets you thinking, doesn't it? Because
Yes,
some
it
of it's
does.
pretty obvious, but other aspects of it, you sort of, it causes you to stretch your mind as to what is a hazard in the workplace. Because some of those
Things that
things,
I never thought of before.
yeah, you would be walking around the workplace and you wouldn't think twice
Yes.
in relation to those. So just to touch on, just to recap what we've gone through today.
Yes.
So what's a safety hazard? So just thinking back, what is in really simple terms, what's a safety hazard?
Something that could cause you illness or accident
Or death.
or death.
Okay. So someone's behaviour or actions that can result in personal injury,
Yes.
illness or death. Okay. So in the workplace, what can exhibit those hazards?
Can exhibit? You mean
So what
that
yeah.
are
So
not like a person doing
well,
it?
a person can. That's one example. A person can be a hazard.
All right. It could be a moving object, meaning a forklift, a truck, whatever.
Yep. It could be an object or a thing that can be
Trolley.
causing a hazard.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to a person, what is it about the person that is the hazard? Am I sitting here? Am I a hazard?
No.
Okay. But if I was running around this room with a broom playing sword fighting,
Yes.
am I a hazard?
Yes.
So what is it about me in those two
Being
examples?
seen.
Okay, well it's my behaviour
Behaviour.
that's
yes.
the hazard.
Yes.
Okay, so when it comes to people,
Yes.
it's generally their behaviours that are the hazard, and when it comes to things, it's the harm they can do to you that's the hazard. So you understand that in that
Where does
context?
the one with the hanging shelf, that one up here, the sharp edges or
Yeah.
the fixtures, what does that come under?
Well, that would come under an object. So it's
not
an
moving.
object in the environment
Oh,
that but it in its own right, sitting there all on its own, it's not interacting. It's not until a human interacts with it. So the risk there is a human not paying attention
Yes.
could back into it, could walk into it, and that's where it's an example of a combination. So that there's an inherent hazard in the object itself because it's a
Right.
sharp object sticking out of the wall. But that on its own isn't going to cause injury or illness to somebody. But a person's behaviour in combination with that is going much the same as, for example, a glass jar sitting on the shelf. The glass jar sitting on the shelf itself is not exhibiting a hazard, but the moment it interacts with the human behaviour and that falls off the shelf and shatters on the floor, you now have a hazard.
So what do I do about it?
Okay, well that's something that we're going to be covering in the next lesson. So
Okay.
basically what we've covered is what is a hazard and how to identify it. What we're going to be working on when we move into your next lesson is going to be when you see one of those hazards, what do you do? How do you report it? Who do you report it to? And the other thing that we'll be doing is in relation to how you can eliminate those safety hazards. Some of those, it might be eliminating them by removing the potential for them to become a hazard in the first place, or they may have become a hazard, and what have you got to do to eliminate the risk to people around from being exposed to that hazard. So have you got any other questions in relation to the lesson?
No, that's fine.
Okay, so what I would like you to do is I would like you to fill out this learner feedback form.
Sure.
Just give me an idea on how the lesson went and be honest in relation to it. If there's anything, don't be afraid to be critical or semi-critical. If there's something you think I could have done better, don't be afraid to mention that to me. Okay, so I'll just leave that with you. I'll
When do
head
you
off
want this
now.
back?
when you finish that, just leave it on the desk and I'll come in and get it when I'm tidy up. So
Okay.
once you've finished it, you can go back to work and we'll take it from there.
No
Okay?
worries.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.